Okay? But the amazing thing is, and I have tremendous respect for this gentleman, he turned the conversation around. He started talking to me, talking to me about my contributions, talking to me about technology, talking to me about my insights, and then they made me a fabulous offer. I didn't take that job because I was still on the startup biz and I wanted to do another startup. Obviously, they had a better pay package as well than a big multinational. But it gave me that I have to go position myself. The way I view myself, the way what I think, the world does not see me. There is some different glasses that we view ourselves. The world I am experiencing, the world they are experiencing. My aspirations, whom I role model, is different. I always role model the CEO of the company, and I think I should be there, right? But the others that don't see me are naturally in that position, right? So that told me that I have to go position. I have to go ask where I need to, and if something is where I think is not right, I have to voice it.
Pamela, right? Let me interrupt you and hold your thought on that. She made some very beautiful points in terms of her own journey and shared with us how she learned that things are very different, how people view you is different, being part of the diversity portfolio. And she also learned early on that she needs to position herself. And let me bounce this off you. I'm sure every one of you feel the same. So it's nothing to do with being a woman or a male. Every one of you feel the need to position yourself in order to really grab the right opportunity. Does that resonate with all of you? Right? So it really is not the dimension of, maybe women feel it much more intensely given the kind of stark need or the gap, as we talked about from a gender gap. But otherwise, that is something which clearly is the need for anybody who is pitching and positioning or getting into a workforce or moving up the ladder. With that, I would actually invite Anita now, and hold your thoughts, and we will come back to you, Pamela. I will invite Anita on that piece, as she said, role model. Anita, how do you feel when people take you as a role model today, and what did it take you to attain that kind of a journey up the ladder to achieve a position where you're taken as a role model? Over to you, Anita.
Thanks, Kiran. It's a hard act to follow when you model yourself with the CEO. I've never looked at it as I have to be the CEO, but I always kind of, going back to the start of the conversation where you said as a woman and how coming into this workforce, I went to science because science was exciting for me. Through my career, when I say career, I mean early education, that was something that got me excited. And anecdotally, which I pointed out to some of you, when I joined my engineering class, I think the women population was at 60 and 40 was the other one. This is electronics and telecommunication in a Bangalore college, right? And it was a proud moment for me to see that that was the situation there, right? Now, to think back to now the condition today, I really see electronics not being the top subject for women to get into, right? Because of the software boom, I think from engineering perspective, they think that's an easier one. Now that apart, from this forum that we are talking about and trying to think how do we get more women in this industry, and I'm going to address this part of it more than the others, we have to play a role as women leaders and as men also in this group to make sure that it is exciting, not just for women, but for the younger population to think, semiconductors and electronics is equally exciting. Back to your question about as a role model and how did I come through this. I've never thought of myself as a woman that needs to do something different because I'm a woman, right? Because I think part of it is my ecosystem around me as I grew up. I was fortunate there. But the one thing that resonates with me always is even women or men coming from very difficult circumstances and background, if they have conviction of their thought, they're confident, they can make it happen no matter where. Right? I think that's my view. I've never thought of myself as being deprived or needing a handicap or some kind of a special status to make myself be at the next level. So the first thing that I've always believed in and I continue to believe is to be the best you can be, right? Look up for role models who are around you, and there's several of them. They don't have to be leaders above you. It can be your peers, it can be your juniors, it can be a brand new college hire that you came into your team. I really look for such role models. There is a quality about everybody that is amazing that we must learn to appreciate, acknowledge, and learn from it. That's been my mantra always, and I'll continue to do that. That's my goal, right? As far as how have I tried to grow in my own career, right? I think it's important to be very informed about what's going around in the business, right? No matter which team you belong to, being aware of what's the surrounding groups that either there's a dependency to or because it's a part of the ecosystem is something that women tend not to do as well. That is something I've heard about, and I've personally understood it, because if there's 5 things to take care of, you tend to focus on the caregiving part of it. And I'm referring this to all the women in the group, and I hope all men who also take equal part in their families, right? There is always this part of it that, oh, the kids go to school, that the kids get dinner. Those things all have to be a part of our parcel. But how do you manage your time around this smartly? Building a support structure around yourself. People ask me, I mean, let me give you this anecdotal stuff. When I came and joined IBM 8 years ago, and I was, going through some of the roundtables, some of the women actually asked me, and men too asked me, if I was married and if I had kids. They assumed I'm only, I guess, successful because I don't have those family, issues. But I think that's the piece that you are able to work through multiple scenarios, keeping a focus on the end goal on a daily basis, sometimes on an hourly basis, right? That's something that we have to keep track of. Women, I think, have an advantage of multitasking. I don't think there's any debate on that. Parallel processing is equal to multitasking is an advantage. Women take that bar of excellence very high. That we need to leverage in day-to-day work, right?
Thank you, Anita.
Yeah.
So what Anita was sharing with us is, I was, just summarizing in my mind, 3 C's. She talked about being confident, she talked about being capable, and she talked about being committed. And if you are one of those, with all these capabilities, you will succeed. And that's a success mantra she has shared with us in terms of her own journey. And while she humbly admits that she never looked at herself as a role model, I'm sure there are a lot of young women who would die to get into the kind of roles that Pamela has envisaged and journeyed, and what Anita has been able to harness. Because there are a lot of young women, as I have understood and observed, and many of you would, that they're aspiring, but they are also very skeptical at times because of the ecosystems, as Pamela mentioned, very difficult circumstances or challenges. They do not know how. And they do need role models. And research has proven that having role models, especially in the diversity portfolio, helps people to stay inspired. And that's one of the reasons for many of the male counterparts out here, as you're building your policies and frameworks and the ecosystem within the organizations, creating role models for other women to feel encouraged, or any diversity portfolio you hold, will help really bring the ecosystem or speed up the pace with which you develop women leaders. So with that, Ritu, you now have a different hat, and recently you got acquired, Immensa Semiconductors got acquired by MediaTek. Do you want to share with us how was that exciting, fun-filled, yet difficult journey from moving from being an engineer into the hat of a founder and a CEO of a semiconductor company, and now with the exit strategy you have brought in?
Yeah, thanks, Kiran. So I think, so I come from a corporate background, and, before Immensa, I was in TI for many, many years, and that's where my initial part of my career really shaped up. I think one of the things, obviously going on to what Pamela and Anita have also said, is that I've never really felt myself, like a different species. I mean, men and women are that way very, very equal. I mean, there are like, there are all men and women around everywhere in society. So it's not that I ever felt kind of, standing out. And I have been fortunate, I must say, that no one has ever made me feel this way, in the background that I have grown up in, as well as where I have worked. But, there are challenges, definitely, that as a woman I have gone through, and any woman, would have gone through. And for that matter, even men, who are equal caregivers in today's society. And I would say they go through more challenges because it is not very stereotypical for men to take on those roles. And they are even questioned even more. So keeping that aside, but if you look at it, for example, when the way I really look at men and women in society, and especially in this semiconductor space, if you look at through schooling and through high school and through colleges, I mean, you do see women doing very well. I mean, they're constantly topping charts, they're constantly doing well. So you have a very, you have a workforce, ready workforce that is hugely talented. So it just makes business sense to make use of this workforce. If you're not making use of it, I mean, we're stupid. I mean, that is all I really look at it. So when when I stepped out of my role in TI, where I was leading, worldwide development teams, and, I had a bigger picture in my head. And when I took on this entrepreneurship journey, I didn't really look at it in the, in the fact that I was a woman and I was taking it on. And even when I talk to any customers, and many of my previous customers are sitting here, fortunately, no one really asked me that, are you able to run the business? I mean, it was, my track record spoke for itself. What I had accomplished and the confidence that I had gained from those accomplishments actually spoke for itself. And I think that is very important in women, to really build on that confidence and have that conviction in yourself, because that is all that makes a difference. Whether you really trust what you can do, whether you really believe in it, then all other challenges will be taken care of. It's just something that you personally believe in and really want to accomplish. You have a dream. How do you get to that dream? And really just focus on that. That's what I believe.
Thank you, Ritu. So she has very clearly gave us the message of self-belief. Again, this is gender neutral, right? A self-belief, the conviction somebody has in oneself, and how do you harness that? Because once you have self-belief and confidence within yourself and trust, you will be able to achieve several milestones in a career journey. And she was ready to take on the founder and CEO role of starting a company and now taking it to the next stage of being acquired, and she is going through those due diligence and other processes right now. So with that, Pamela has a few slides to bring in, specifically looking at the large talent pool, because Ritu also raised this question. We have a large workforce, or women who can get into workforce, but unfortunately we do not see as many entering the workforce. And once they enter, we do not see them really moving along the career journey for the 20 or 30 years. They drop out at different life cycle stages, as we would say. So given that, we really want to inspire the Gen Next. This is for all of us, and this is for all the companies and the organizations and the ecosystem. It is something we really need to harness. So over to Pamela to share with us the slides and walk us through.
So this is just a context-setting slide of the journey of women in the professional world. So as you see, the first generation was women who, due to circumstances, entered the workforce. And in their journey, the emphasis was on providing the basics, the maternity leave, the creche, and other basic facilities. And survival was their game. They wanted to survive in the work, continue to earn, and continue to be financially viable. Then we came to the next generation, which you probably see here, aspirational women, who entered the workforce because they wanted to prove themselves, they aspired, they wanted a bigger horizon, a bigger canvas to play on. And really, the challenge is, then we talked about, the glass ceiling and then the glass cliff, and all those concepts have evolved out of these aspirational women, and they are less than 10%. They will be less than 10%. Even aspirational men are less than 10%, right? And the focus there has been, through the diversity initiatives and all that, on learning the rules of the game. So you are living in a man's world, you accept that. You want to be successful by the rules of the game that have been defined by the legacy. And that's what we have done. When my daughter entered